Hi, and welcome to App Marketing Conversations. I am Ryan Morrell with GameHouse. As always, I'm here with Ian Sefferman of Mobile Dev HQ and Roby Ganguly of Apptentive.
Morning.
How you guys doing?
Great.
A little sleepy? Doing all right?
Yeah. I don't want to hear you complain.
How are you doing, new papa?
Yeah, good.
So Ryan just had a new child.
Yeah.
Congrats. And
Yeah.
that's why you have bags under your eyes.
Yeah. 1 week old today.
All right.
And to celebrate that 1 week, apparently, App Annie released a new report saying Google Play has finally eclipsed iOS in the number of app downloads. So my first reaction and maybe my first question to you guys is, why did it take so long?
That's actually a great question. I mean, number of devices, they're eclipsing them by a wide margin. Price of apps, I think, for the most part, there are generally more free apps there. You'd think that it would be a longer time. I have no good answer other than engagement on iOS is better and Apple's better at producing quality ecosystem.
I think one thing we've talked about before that continues to be played out in research and studies that are coming back is that a lot of folks are buying Android devices as a replacement for their previous phone. It's very affordable, oftentimes free with a contract. And so they're buying it as a phone first. It's for voice, it's for texting, and then maybe they're getting into some of the email and web browsing, but they're not thinking about it as apps. They're thinking about it as phone. And I think that more of the iOS consumers are thinking about it as, this is my next computer, and I can do a lot more stuff with it. So that changing perspective on what you're getting the device for probably translates a lot to the downloads.
Yeah. So bigger market, bigger number of people using Android devices. Most of those aren't downloading as much, or not as many of them are downloading. So how do you take that knowledge and apply it to the marketing efforts for your apps? Or do you?
No, I mean, I think it's obviously hugely important to understand how each ecosystem plays out, right? For me, it's potentially less about the marketing and more about the monetization efforts. I think on Android, the other part of the report that we haven't really talked about yet is even with more downloads on Google Play, revenue I think is still double on Android on iOS, right? So monetization is a huge problem. I don't think we've figured that out yet. I will continually say that for a long, long time, and I don't know the answers.
Yeah, I think so. The monetization aspect is interesting, but it also, if you're thinking about this from the marketing perspective, and you think about your audience and what kind of audience you traditionally have. So let's exclude the mobile-only companies and look a little bit more broader. If you have an understanding of your demographics, and they happen to be sort of middle-class citizens living in off the coast, like in the center of the country, for example, Android is a place you really should be thinking about, right? That's where we're seeing sales map, at least in the U.S. And I think if you look globally, it's even more true that you're sort of middle class or sort of lower income people are getting these devices because they're affordable, and you can't ignore that if you're a marketer and that's your typical demographic. That's the device that they're living on.
And I think that changes how and where you advertise. This is a good example. So I was thinking about this morning, listening to ESPN radio, right? Which is Christian Mingle is probably the hottest startup that nobody talks about.
Yeah.
Right? Like, at least based on how much they spend on advertising and where they do it, I see their ads on TV all the time, and I hear their ads on the radio all the time. But it's never on Seattle channels. Right? It's never on like the more progressive Seattle local radio. It's always on like Sirius ESPN radio or Sirius CNN or like anything like that, where you can sort of Sirius Fox News, right? Like where you can really like presume that it's coming from those middle states. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a smart tactic, right? Instead of going for the more like, they're not advertising on TechCrunch. They're not trying to get that type of press. They're going after where their target audience is, and so if those are your users, I think the marketing efforts have to shift towards where those users are.
Yeah. That's the other angle on this is thinking about it not just as app ecosystem, but now a channel to go communicate with customers through advertising and marketing activities. Android is definitely becoming more and more important there, and that's to be expected, right? That's Google's core business.
Yeah. I would think the one thing people should be careful about is understanding that the same audience is going to monetize differently across both platforms. So, and simply because iOS users spend money and Android users don't, right? So you might be targeting 35 to 44-year-old females on iOS. They may spend, and you may say, "Oh, great! Well, we'll make half as much as we did on Android," but it could turn out that that's not true, right? So you just need to be careful about that when you're planning your products and how you're going about spending your marketing budget. Okay. Anything else you guys want to add to this besides the fact that it took seemingly forever?
Yeah, I think it took a long time. I expect the trend of downloads to continue to go up, and we'll see maybe that, like, if they can take 3 to 4x the amount of downloads, will they actually be equal in terms of revenue at some point?
Yeah, and I think maybe next week we'll talk about this and dig in a little bit more. What are the marketplaces doing? And I think you both have pretty good insights in this that are leading to shifts, right? So if I'm Google Play, I'm trying to accelerate that growth of downloads. If I'm Apple, I'm trying to maintain the monetization lead and get back on downloads. What are they doing in order to accelerate that stuff?
Yeah, it's a good idea. Okay, thanks guys. Make sure to check out the segments from Ian and Roby and come back for more App Marketing Conversations.
Thanks. Mobile is great for getting at your customers wherever they may be. Mobile is great at the engagement piece of the puzzle, right? So going back and back and back to your customers in a way that you